It's great. We've had a couple of fabulous days together, haven't we? We've been considering two themes, really, that I think are relevant to what I'd like to talk with you about. The theme of leadership and really how critical in today's chaos, in today's confusion, leadership is to business, education, and even, of course, in community. And then we've been thinking about what particular skills do leaders need to build the future. I'm a psychologist, and I've often thought what it is that I actually love about being a psychologist over the years. I think that it's just very exciting to help people think about the future. The job of leadership is very, very similar. We need a group of people who can imagine what that future looks like. And they've got to try to describe the future and make it so compelling that we really are moved and inspired to want to move towards and embrace it. But the difficulty of that job for all of us in the room as leaders is we've got to try to imagine that in the most difficult economic climate that any of us have ever seen in living memory. It's not a question of business as usual. We're going to have to find some new skills, some new understanding, some insights around what those skills look like of these future leaders. This idea of emotional intelligence has absolutely changed the world and changed the way we conceive of how we do business. Some time ago, a struggling journalist by the name of Dan Goleman, with a psychology background, stumbled across some research written by two excellent psychologists, Peter Salovey and John Mayer. What these researchers discovered was everything we thought we knew about what constitutes human performance and how we encourage people to perform at their best, we were dead wrong about. We used to think, that it was sticks or carrots. Dan's book comes out and he says, it's not sticks, it's not carrots, I'll tell you what it is. He says it's values. He says when you tap into the things people believe, the things they really care about, the things they get out of bed for in the morning, when you tap into those things, you create the possibility inside people for them to tap into a reservoir of talent that can create some of the most productive and exciting work. And Dan's book comes out and he says, you know what, in 100 years of research, there's hardly a skerrick of evidence to suggest that your intelligence, as defined simply by IQ, will determine how high you go and what you're capable of achieving with your life. And in fact, as long as you've got enough IQ points to get in the game, there's another set of skills emerging from the basements of behavioral science labs around the world that are pointing to a set of skills that, particularly as you move to this side of the curve and you take on the responsibilities of leadership and inspiring other people, are highly predictive of how well you will do and what you're capable of achieving. You see, there's only two ways to change human behavior. You can manipulate it or you can inspire it. But if you really want to grow something extraordinary, if you want to create something of value that has sustainability and lasting, in today's climate, you need to be a leader that understands how to inspire people to achieve their potential and what it is. What is it that separates human beings from every other creature on the planet? It's our remarkable ability to imagine the future. No other creature on the planet can do that, because to do that, you need a prefrontal cortex. And this is the place where you analyze and rationalize and think, But on the way, all of this information is being recorded on the hard drive of your limbic system, a collection of structures in your emotional brain, much more primitive. Richard Davidson from the University of Wisconsin, one of the world's leading neuroscientists, has rattled the cage. Because what Richard found was that in those people that have neurological pathways, broad neurological pathways between the limbic system, between the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex, the larger the exchange of data from your emotional experience through to your rational brain, these people had a much more positive and creative vision of the future. They were much more resilient in the face of setbacks. They had a much more complex and detailed social network. That they were far more creative and innovative in their ability to bring solutions to complex problems. The biggest breakthrough was that not that long ago, we thought that the brain was a fixed mass of jelly and that by the time you're in your early 20s, that was it. We now know the brain's plastic. Not like a fork which breaks under pressure, but plastic in the sense that it's constantly responding and changing to stimuli. The revelation of neuroscience is that every emotional reaction you ever have at work or in your personal life has become an emotional habit. The great news is they can all be changed. We now know that all the behaviors that are so predictive of outstanding leadership can be learnt and built once we understand the building blocks. Well, look, we got a hint of this in 1990. Metropolitan Life Insurance, they were losing all of their top talented salespeople out of the bottom of the business. And so they went to the head of the American Psychological Association, Martin Seligman, and they said to him, Professor Seligman, you've got to help us. We are bleeding money here. What should we do? He said, what you do is you hire people on the basis of optimism. He was thinking of optimism as a business strategy. People who understand the potential over the horizon, the opportunity that sits just beyond what other people can see. But more than that, a deep resilience in the pit of the stomach that takes you back and back and back in the face of setback. Suddenly, the business world had a magic insight of the soft skills and how they predict hard performance. And this was just one competency. We've been working with Singtel now in Australia, their subsidiaries Optus, for 3 years. They have leadership programs that they're committed to develop people. 2 of the 5 committed to building their emotional intelligence. Turned out that they produced leadership engagement scores 16% improvement, which is the highest in the history of Singtel's business. They produced 11% in the second group, and they produced 6% customer engagement and employee engagement scores, the highest in Singtel's history. But here's the good news. Over the course of your life, this is a sample of 10,000 people. Unlike your IQ, your EQ seems to improve. So the challenge, you see, is not can we develop these competencies that are linked to performance? How can we accelerate their development? You will find 10 competencies that emerge that are highly predictive of the most successful men and women on the planet. Can you imagine if we could pull the curtain back and get a backstage pass and really understand what some of those building blocks look like? And for that, for the last 10 years, we built the Emotional Capital Report. And that's what the faculty of Sheffield Business School and I have been pulling apart and examining. This is a tool that we built over 10 years, normed it finally on 3,240 people in professional leadership roles around the world. On the first one, self-reliance, Bruce Barton said it probably the best. He said, nothing splendid has ever been achieved except by those people who found something inside themselves superior to circumstance. If you're going to lead today, you've got to find something inside yourself that's not going to mean that you're a product of your moment in history. Or somebody said it less eloquently, you can't lead a cavalry charge if you think you look funny on a horse. There's a sense inside you. Look how these people score almost 1 standard deviation above the mean. Something about the decision to take personal responsibility, to take initiative, to back your judgment. You know, you become a remarkable resource inside an organization when you lead with this extraordinary core quality of self-reliance. It means that you have taken full responsibility for authoring your own story, and you walk into an organization and you take the pen and you determine that you're going to write a chapter in the life of this business. And if you're in leadership, because Jack Welch said it best, he said, before you became a leader, it was all about you. But when you chose to lead, it's all about can you grow people? That's what it's all about. So can you give the pen to some high potential young men and women across your business and say, here, you write a paragraph and I'll back you up. In 23 years of psychological research, there is no stronger predictor of success in life than this remarkable competency of optimism. We know that optimism is highly contagious and highly predictive of sustaining behaviors and performance over the course of time. And in organizations, we really need to understand how leaders show up and create morale and how they engage young men and women and enable them to rise to the occasion of these difficult moments that we're faced with. Self-actualization. When Abraham Maslow gave us this incredible notion, he was knocking on heaven's door. He was chasing something about the source of energy, that source that takes you into work and that is the fuel for your very best creations, your most innovative ideas. And if you strip all the psychological jargon away, what you're left with is passion. It's an overused word these days in business, what you're passionate about. But it's the deepest source of the renewal of your energies, that this is the source of sustained leadership power. Executives, leaders who know how to tap in and renew their energy. Because when you show up on Monday morning as a leader, you're going to have one of three effects on people. And you know Connor, you've met him tonight. When he shows up on a Monday morning at Sheffield Business School, I'll tell you the effect he's likely to have. Either when he shows up, people are going to go, oh God, Connor's here. Or they're going to go, oh, Connor's here. Or they're going to go, oh, Connor's here. The subtle differences in that response will tell us a lot about Connor's leadership brand. In the second half of your life, the greatest skill you will develop personally and professionally as a leader in this business is how to develop a peaceful mind. Because when your mind is peaceful and you know how to calm it, you will come from a place of strength and of great influence that will carry with it remarkable power to influence other people. And this final one here, on this one, self-confidence is a very deep psychological construct. It's the reactor core of your personality, and it's built pixel by pixel as you look into the mirrors of other people as you develop. It's one of the really cool, and it's the most difficult thing to shift and develop. Whenever people take the emotional capital report and determine they're going to build their emotional skills, and they take the lid off and have a look inside, I say the same thing to every one of them, and it's this. When you look inside yourself today, whatever you find in there, you've got to make this decision before you leave the room. You've got to like it. Because if you don't like it, no one else will. And you'll spend the second half of your life compensating for not really genuinely valuing who you are as a person. And it will distort your personality, and everyone will see straight through it. It's liking. It's the most difficult thing to do. The second one, competence, comes from this notion. A child comes out and sees a tree, and she thinks, you know what, I can get to the top of that. She climbs up this tree. One parent comes out and reacts, oh my God, what do you think you're doing? Get down. You can feel the fear, and don't let me ever see you do that again. And the child comes down and thinks, whoa, I won't be doing that again in a hurry. And then over the course of that child's life, you see, that child will become more and more conventional, conservative, won't take risks, won't trust their judgment, will always check with other people before they take initiative. Another parent comes out and reacts, oh gosh, that's amazing. You must be able to see forever. How did you do that? It's extraordinary. But listen, next time, let me know and I'll make sure you're safe. God, that's incredible. Kid comes down with a feeling in the pit of the stomach. Do you know what? That feeling you can change the world with. Self-knowing, that's the basis upon which really your emotional intelligence is built. Relationship skills. 80% of your success in business will come from how you manage the quality of your relationships with stakeholders. Adaptability, self-control, and finally, empathy. Because all of us fundamentally really need to understand and be understood. And I believe it's exactly the same with leadership. The only difference is you don't have 60 minutes. In most instances in corporate life, you've got about 60 seconds when somebody meets you. But in that 60 seconds, if you have the skill of being able to suspend your own agenda and completely focus in on that person's experience and the challenge they're facing, so that they know you are exclusively listening to them and understanding their particular challenge, it will totally transform your leadership. And for all of us, it's one of the most difficult challenges. And in business today, there's no more excuses. We know what the skills of exceptional leaders now look like. We know that they're grounded in the nuts and bolts of emotional and social competencies. We've got a backstage pass into what these building blocks look like. We know how to measure them. There's a multitude of evidence to demonstrate the correlations between that and success. And this, with his final quote, Henry David Thoreau said it better. He said, what lies behind us and what lies before us, small matters compared to what lies within us. And when we bring that out into the open, miracles happen. Men and women, I put it to you tonight, that's the challenge if you're in leadership and that's your job. To become world-class at knowing how to draw out of the young, talented men and women who show up for work every day in your businesses, to know how to draw out their talent and make it dance, to remain innovative and responsive to the current challenges in the marketplace. Thank you very much.